Hey, I'm Brian Miller, magician and motivational speaker. If you're a regular subscriber, thanks so much for sticking with me, and if you're new here, welcome to the channel. It's Friday, and that means it's time for a Q&A. What the hell? Before we get into the Q&A, just a few quick announcements. That interview I did on local Connecticut television, you saw me go do the interview back in the Thanksgiving vlog, which I'll put right here. That interview is actually now available online. You can go watch it on the Cameras Rolling YouTube page. I will put the link in the YouTube description down below. It's a good interview. Marsha's she's a riot of a host. It's my fourth time being a guest on her show since 2010. We talked about the magic for the military tours that I've done, the couple of times I've gone overseas to do magic for the American troops and their families stationed on military bases all over Europe and Asia, the Middle East, and Africa. We talked about the success of my TEDx talk and what that's done for my career, nearing 3 million views right now, which is insane. I also showed her a quick trick, and I taught her, and therefore I taught you, the viewer, a really cool brain teaser magic trick kind of a thing that you can learn and go show your friends and family this holiday season. Speaking of the holidays, this is the last video I'm going to upload before Christmas. I'll be taking a few days off with my family. Happy holidays to you if you celebrate anything this time of year. Happy December if you don't celebrate anything. And I'll pick back up with some videos right after we get through December 25th and I have a chance to start making some content. There's some great stuff coming. Stick around for that. And finally, I am nearing the end of December holiday party season. I've got a corporate after dinner show this evening. I've got a private house party this weekend, and then I'm done until after Christmas, which is wonderful. By the way, even though it's not part of the Q&A, I'm half Jewish. I was raised Roman Catholic, but also my dad's family is entirely 100% Jewish. I was raised with an understanding of both religions and a lot of different cultures by the nature of my upbringing and where I grew up, which was a super diverse part of Western New York outside of Buffalo. Also, when I was in high school, I studied philosophy, and in college, I studied philosophy, and as part of that training, I studied Hinduism, Buddhism, Taoism, so I don't particularly subscribe to any one religion. I'm not particularly religious myself, but I really enjoy learning about and studying all different religions and cultures all over the world, old ones, new ones. And at the end of the day, whatever you believe, as long as you're trying to be a good person and do right by the people that you come in contact with, and you wake up every single day thinking to yourself, can I make my life and the lives of the people I meet better? As long as you're doing that, I think you're good to go. Okay, on to the Q&A. Today's question comes from Twinkle11212 down in the YouTube comments on one of my recent vlogs. And Twinkle11212 asks, how do you work on and prepare for the stand-up comedy aspect of your performance? That seems to be a completely different genre of performance art and skill set. What an astute question and observation. So first, yes, it is a completely different performance art and skill set than magic. Comedy and magic actually have a lot in common, but they also have a lot that's not in common, that are actually at odds with each other, which makes being a comedy magician, incorporating comedy into magic, a rather difficult thing to do. Much harder than you would believe given how many comedy magicians are out there, or at least how many magicians are marketing themselves as comedy magicians. By and large, what you'll find is that because, quote, comedy magic sells better than just being a magician, because it's like, oh, he's funny and he's a magician. Or when they see comedy magic, they think, oh, good, it's not going to be, you know, stodgy, old-fashioned magic. It's going to be funny, humorous, lighthearted magic. You get hired easier by being a comedy magician. And because of that, every magician who's learned one knock-knock joke started calling themselves a comedy magician at some point. My marketing materials actually say comedian and magician. They rarely say comedy magician on them, particularly the marketing materials used that I give to my clients to use to promote shows. They say comedian and magician, and that's because I actually studied stand-up comedy. I worked as a stand-up comedian for years, straight all the way through college and a little bit outside of college. So I'd say 4 full years devoted to learning stand-up comedy. Now, if you talk to any full-time stand-up comedians, they will tell you 4 years in comedy is you're still a beginner, and absolutely 100% agree. But the reason that I draw attention to that is that I was simultaneously doing magic shows and working as a stand-up comedian. But I wasn't doing any magic tricks in my stand-up comedy, and I wasn't doing any stand-up in my magic shows. I was simultaneously learning both art forms. And comedy, if you want to be a comedy anything, comedy magician, comedy juggler, comedy speaker, if you want to be a comedy anything, you must learn stand-up comedy. In other words, you have to go to comedy clubs, you have to go to open mics, you have to learn how to entertain an audience with nothing but you and the microphone. It's the hardest thing I've ever done. Of all the different types of things that I'm involved in, that I've done as a magician, I do some mentalism, which is like mind reading. I'm a musician, right? I play a lot of different instruments. I've been a recording artist. I've done mixing as an audio engineer. I've done live sound as an audio tech. I've done some cartooning for a little while. So I've done a lot of different things, and let me tell you, stand-up comedy, 100% the hardest of all of them. And it's not even close. Why is stand-up so hard? It's so hard because there's nowhere to hide. It's you and a microphone and an audience, and if you say something that's funny, they laugh, and if they don't think it's funny, they don't laugh. They don't like you. It's just silent. There's nothing else that happens. You make a joke, rah, 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 and then my wife, brah. Dead silence. There's nothing else to do. See, magicians can hide behind a trick. If you're a magician who's not particularly funny or even interesting or engaging or good with people, at the end of the day, a magic trick creates an impossible moment. And even if you were totally unfunny and unrelatable and unlikable and not interesting at all, at the end of the trick, something impossible happens. You still succeed as a magician. That's not true of comedy. Comedy, if your joke doesn't work, there's nothing, it doesn't matter if they like you or not, they're not gonna laugh. They only laugh if it's funny. What I would say to that, your question, kind of how did you develop, how did you hone, I don't remember what the actual question was. I have forgotten the actual question. How do you work on and prepare for the stand-up? Oh, okay, how do you work on and prepare? I write the comedy the same way stand-up comics do. The difference is that as a magician, I'm looking for jokes and comedy. I'm looking for them from within the magic. I start with the routine. I start with the magic. I start with whatever the effect is as a magician. You know, I'm going to take somebody's bill and it's going to go up in flames and show up inside of a wrapped present. Well, okay, so that's the magic. It's an impossible location trick. Something shows up in an impossible location. I take the premise of what I'm doing as a magician, and within that context, I search for jokes that exist within that space. In other words, brilliant comedy magician, one of my heroes in magic, Jay Sankey, he once said, who also worked as a stand-up comedian and then transitioned into magic full-time and left the world of stand-up. One of the reasons he was a big inspiration for me, because it's the same path I was taking. Also, he's got a background in philosophy, so there's something to be said for all of this, I think. He said, don't go outside of the magic and pull comedy in. Find comedy within the magic. And that's really what I'm doing. The formula of a joke and the formula of a magic trick are almost exactly the same, if not identical. But their application and how they affect an audience are completely separate and at odds with each other. I plan on doing kind of a whole discussion about how to work comedy into magic, how they work together, what are the problems of trying to work comedy and magic together. Let me know if you'd be interested in seeing that. I mean, I only do videos that you guys are interested in. I originally thought when I developed this channel I'd have a larger following of magicians, but I find that most of my followers on this channel are not magicians. You guys are interested in what I'm up to for some reason, and I'm grateful for that. I really appreciate it, but largely not magicians. So I don't know if the discussions of magic theory that I like to have are interesting to you. So let me know in the comments below if you'd be interested in seeing that video on kind of discussion of comedy and magic and how they work together, and how to write a joke versus how to create a magic trick, and you know, that sort of thing. I think that's good for today. I've got to get ready for this evening's show, second to last show of the holiday season, or at least second to last show before Christmas, and then I actually have 2 more events after Christmas before the new year. It's craziness. Thanks so much for sticking with me. My name is Brian Miller. Always remember that our world is a shared experience. Go out there, make it a good one. Have a safe, happy, wonderful holiday season, and I'll see you from the other side.